I still remember the exact moment the truth hit me, not like a dawning realization, but like a cold, hard slap across the face. I was standing in the hallway of my own apartment, frozen, listening. On the other side of the bedroom door, Chloe was on the phone with a friend, and she was talking about me. Honestly, she giggled, I can't marry him like this. Can you imagine the wedding photos? I'd look like I settled for whatever I could get. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, but they were also a bizarre kind of relief. This was it. This was the raw, unvarnished truth about the woman I'd spent 4 years loving, the woman who had just reduced our entire relationship to my appearance and her social standing. Before that moment, I'd been Alex, 23 and fresh out of college, working my first real job at a tech startup in Denver. I was in the best shape of my life, honestly, because I didn't have much else to do besides work and hit the gym. I was that guy, morning runs, meal prepping, gym selfies that got way too many likes. And that's how Chloe noticed me. At a coffee shop near my office, she walked right up, complimented my build, asked if I competed, and within 2 weeks, we were inseparable. Looking back now, the signs were always there. She talked about my appearance constantly, like it was my most valuable trait. She'd go on about how I looked like I walked off a magazine cover, how all her friends were jealous she was with me. At the time, I thought it was sweet, like she was proud. She posted us everywhere, Instagram, Facebook, always angled so my arms or shoulders were visible. Always with captions about couple goals or her king. Her comment sections would blow up with fire emojis. I genuinely thought we were building something real. But the glaring thing I missed? She never once posted about my personality, my sense of humor, how I treated her. It was always about aesthetics. By year 2, I started dropping hints about moving in, talking about our future house. She was always enthusiastic but vague, yes, definitely, when the timing is right, never anything concrete. Year 3, I brought up marriage directly over dinner at this Italian place we loved. She smiled, immediately deflected, saying we were still young, needed to focus on careers and savings. It made sense, so I accepted it. Year 4, her friends were getting engaged left and right, and whenever I mentioned it, she'd dismiss them, saying they were rushing or weren't financially stable enough. She never defined stable enough, though. If someone keeps moving the goalpost on commitment, what are they really waiting for? Then, everything changed. I'd been ignoring this persistent pain in my lower abdomen for months, being an idiot, until one night it got so bad I ended up in the ER. They found a complicated hernia that needed immediate surgery. The surgery went fine, but the recovery was brutal. They put me on pain medication that made me foggy, tired. For months of no heavy lifting, no intense exercise. Between the meds, the pain, and the depression that came from suddenly being unable to do the one thing that made me feel good about myself, I spiraled. I couldn't work out, couldn't move like I used to. Most evenings were spent on the couch, eating takeout. Chloe wasn't exactly stepping up to help with meals. The weight came on faster than I expected, about 35 pounds over 7 months. I went from visible abs to a soft stomach and a rounder face. And just like that, Chloe's entire energy shifted. At first, it was small comments disguised as jokes. Little digs about me enjoying those recovery meals a little too much, or suggesting it was time to get back to the gym. I'd laugh it off, explain the pain, the physical therapy, the doctor's orders. But she kept pushing. By month 8, she wasn't joking anymore. Pointed comments about how I looked in photos, can we not post this one, when she really meant I looked heavier. She started pulling away physically. Less affection, less intimacy, more time on her phone or out with friends. When I tried to talk to her, she'd brush it off, just stressed with work. But I could feel the real reason hanging in the air between us. Her friends started asking questions, apparently, because one night she told me people were wondering what happened to me, said it like it was my fault for embarrassing her. I tried to explain again, the whole medical situation, the chronic pain, the mental health struggle of losing my confidence. She listened with this blank expression, then dismissed it. Everyone has problems, Alex. That's not an excuse to just give up on yourself. My literal medical recovery was a character flaw. The distance between us became a massive, cold chasm. We barely spoke, barely touched, just existed in the same apartment like roommates who didn't particularly like each other. I started feeling like some failed project she'd invested in that hadn't paid off. Then came that night, the one with the phone call. I heard her. And something inside me fundamentally shifted. That's when I understood, Chloe had never loved me. She loved the version of me that made her look good. The second that version disappeared, she couldn't wait to trade me in. After that, after I heard her tell her friend I was too fat to marry, I didn't blow up. I just made a decision. The next morning, I confronted her. I asked her straight up if she really felt that way. And instead of remorse, she tried to spin it. I'm just trying to motivate you, Alex. I want you to be your best self. Then came the line that made everything crystal clear. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Lose the weight. Then we can talk about marriage." Like our future was a reward I had to earn by meeting her physical standards. In that moment, I knew I was done trying to win her approval. But I also realized something else. I did want to get back in shape. Not for her, not to save this dying relationship, but because I missed feeling strong, healthy, like myself. So I told her fine, I'd work on it. But inside, I knew I was doing it for completely different reasons than she thought. That same week, I moved most of my stuff to my buddy Noah's place. Told Chloe I needed space to focus on my health. Honestly, I just couldn't stand being around her anymore, the judgmental looks, the cold shoulders, the feeling like I had to earn basic human decency. I started researching how to safely get back into fitness after surgery. I found Sam, a physical therapist who specialized in post-surgical rehab. He didn't judge me or comment on my weight. He just asked about my pain levels, my range of motion, my goals. He created a program that started super slow, stretching and light movement, rebuilding my core strength. He kept reminding me that recovery was a marathon, not a sprint. It felt good to have someone in my corner who cared about my well-being, not just how I looked. I also started seeing a nutritionist because I knew I couldn't crash diet my way back. I needed to do this right. The first few weeks were brutal, not from the physical work, but from breaking years of bad habits. Late-night eating, using food as comfort, takeout instead of cooking. But slowly, things started to change. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. and hit the gym. It was empty and quiet and kind of lonely, but there was something peaceful about it. Like I was doing this just for me, no audience, no performance. The first time I managed a full workout without any pain, I actually teared up a little in my car afterward. It felt like getting a piece of myself back. Sam's approach was working. Around week 6, I'd lost maybe 10 pounds. Nothing dramatic, but I could feel the difference. That's when Chloe started reaching out more. I was still staying at Noah's, but I'd go back to the apartment to grab clothes. Suddenly, she was interested again. Texting me during the day, asking how the gym went, suggesting dinner. Touching my arm like she used to. She started posting about us again on social media, thinking of you with old photos. It was so transparent it almost made me laugh. By month 3, I'd lost about 25 pounds and was honestly in better shape than before the surgery. Chloe was acting like nothing bad had ever happened. She wanted to meet up more, wanted to talk about us, kept hinting I should move back in. One night she called and said she wanted to take me somewhere special, to celebrate my progress and talk about our future. I almost said no. But part of me needed to see this through, to confirm what I already suspected about her motives. We met at this upscale steakhouse, somewhere we'd never been. She showed up looking incredible, wearing a dress I'd complimented years ago. She was extra affectionate, reaching across the table, laughing at my stories. I just watched her perform. Then she started talking about how proud she was, how I'd proven I could commit, how I'd shown her the man I really was. There was this weird, rehearsed quality to her words. "You've really shown me who you are, Alex," she said. And I realized with a sinking feeling what was building here. She thought this was the reconciliation dinner. I excused myself to the bathroom and just stood there, looking in the mirror. Total clarity. I'd lost the weight. I'd done the work. I'd proven whatever she thought I needed to prove. But none of it changed the fundamental truth that she'd only ever valued me for my appearance. When I came back, she was fiddling with her napkin, nervous energy radiating off her. Before she could launch into whatever came next in her script, I told her we needed to talk honestly about us. She lit up, probably thinking I was about to say I wanted to move back in. Instead, I started asking questions. What did she love about me? What did she value in our relationship? Why did she want to be with me? Every single answer came back to surface-level stuff: how good we looked together, how I motivated her to stay fit, how people admired us as a couple, how proud she was of my transformation. Nothing about my personality, my values, how I treated her. And she didn't even seem to realize how shallow it sounded. Then I asked her point blank, what would happen if I got sick again? If I had another medical issue? If life happened and I couldn't maintain this physique forever? She hesitated, actually had to think about it, before saying of course she'd support me. But I could see in her eyes she was lying. See her mentally calculating whether that was the right answer. I knew right then. I couldn't do this anymore. Couldn't spend my life with someone who saw me as a reflection of her own status rather than as an actual human being. The dinner ended awkwardly. She was confused, I was just trying to get through it. When we left, she tried to suggest coming back to her place. I told her I needed time to think and I'd call her soon. I didn't. 2 weeks of silence passed, and Chloe must have been losing her mind because she started ramping up the pressure. Texting about how we needed to talk, how she had something important planned, how she wanted to celebrate us properly. Finally, she called and practically begged me to meet her for one more dinner. Said she'd made reservations somewhere special. I agreed because I knew I needed to end this cleanly, needed closure for both of us. She picked this trendy rooftop place overlooking downtown Denver, somewhere we'd gone on our first anniversary. I knew exactly what she was planning. She'd been dropping hints all week about big moments and new chapters. I let her think I was clueless, let her get excited. We got to the restaurant and she was practically glowing, touching my arm, laughing too loud. I could see her checking her purse every few minutes like she had something precious hidden inside. The waiter brought our drinks and she launched into this whole speech about my transformation, about how inspired she was, how I'd become the man she always knew I could be. Every word confirmed what I already knew. She wasn't celebrating me as a person. She was celebrating that I'd returned to being the accessory she wanted, the trophy boyfriend who made her look good in photos. Then she reached into her purse. I knew this was it. She was about to pull out a ring or push for some grand romantic gesture. And before she could say another word, I just said it. No. Flat and simple. She froze, hand still in her purse, this confused smile stuck on her face. She asked what I meant, what was I saying no to? I told her I was saying no to all of it. To the performance, to the conditional love, to spending my life with someone who only valued me when I looked a certain way. I told her I'd heard every cruel thing she'd said to her friends. Seen how she treated me when I was at my lowest. Watched her check back in only when I became visually acceptable again. I was done pretending that was love. The confusion on her face shifted to anger real quick. She hissed at me that I was embarrassing her, that people were watching, that we should talk about this at home. But I was done talking in private where she could manipulate the narrative. I stood up, put cash on the table for my half of the bill, and walked out while she sat there frozen. I could feel every eye in that restaurant on us. But for once, I didn't care what anyone thought. I only cared about my own self-respect. My phone started blowing up before I even got to my car. Texts from her mom, from her friends, all saying basically the same thing. I was ungrateful, I'd humiliated her, I owed her an explanation. The entitlement in those messages was almost funny. I turned my phone on silent and drove straight to Noah's. He took one look at my face and just handed me a beer, let me sit on his couch and decompress. After about an hour, I finally told him everything. He listened, then said something that hit me hard. She loved your abs more than she ever loved you, man. Hearing someone else say it out loud made it feel more real, made me realize I wasn't crazy for feeling the way I did. I crashed at Noah's that night. The next morning, I knew I had to face it eventually, get the rest of my stuff, make this official. I called my brother, Ben, who lives about an hour outside Denver, and asked if he'd come help me move. Not because I thought Chloe would get violent, but because I knew she'd try to manipulate me if I went alone. Ben agreed immediately. We drove over to the apartment around noon on a weekday. I used my key, planning to just pack up my remaining clothes and documents and get out fast. But what I found inside changed everything. The place looked like someone had a complete breakdown. Pillows thrown, pictures knocked over, empty wine bottles. On the kitchen table was her laptop, open. I wasn't planning to snoop, but the screen was right there facing me, open to a dating app profile. Already created. Recent photos of her. Filters set to athletic build and six-figure income. My stomach dropped. I scrolled through. Messages. Full conversations with other guys that went back months. Back to when I was still recovering from surgery and at my heaviest. She was complaining about me to complete strangers, saying she was stuck with someone who'd let himself go, asking guys if they wanted to meet up for coffee or drinks, fishing for validation while I was struggling through the worst medical and mental health crisis of my life. Some of these messages were from 8-9 months ago, when I was at my absolute lowest point. She was already shopping for my replacement. Ben saw my face and asked what was wrong. I just turned the laptop toward him. He got angry in a way I rarely saw from my brother. He said she was garbage, that I deserved better, that we should expose her online. But I told him, no. I don't need revenge. I just need proof for myself that leaving was the right call. Evidence in case she tries to rewrite history and make me the villain. I took photos of the conversations on my phone, screenshots of her dating profile. Then I grabbed my clothes, documents, anything that mattered. We were almost done, probably 15 minutes from leaving forever, when Chloe showed up. She came storming in, demanding to know what I thought I was doing, saying I had no right to be there, that I was invading her privacy. The irony almost made me laugh. I stayed calm. I told her I'd seen the dating apps, seen the messages to other guys, seen that she'd been lining up my replacement since before I'd even started losing weight. She actually tried to justify it. You weren't being the partner I needed. What was I supposed to do? Like her emotional cheating was somehow my fault for being injured, for being human, for not maintaining the aesthetic she required. That's when I really let her have it. Not yelling, but cold and clear in a way I'd never spoken to her before. I told her she called me an embarrassment when I was recovering from surgery, told her friends she couldn't marry someone who let himself go, measured my entire worth by my appearance, and checked out of our relationship the second I stopped being Instagram-worthy. I told her I'd lost the weight, but more importantly, I was losing her. And honestly, she taught me exactly what kind of partner I never wanted to be with again, someone who loved conditionally, who treated people like accessories, who abandoned ship the moment things got difficult. She tried the tears. Then the whole "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it" routine, reaching for my arm. But I stepped back and told her we were done. Officially over. I said I'd already moved out weeks ago, this was just collecting the last of my stuff. And if she tried to contact me again, I'd block her on everything. Ben and I walked out. She was standing in the doorway, still trying to get the last word, still trying to make herself the victim in a story where she'd been the villain all along. As we drove away, I felt this massive weight lift that had nothing to do with the gym or the diet. 3 months later, I'm living in my own apartment in a different part of Denver, still working out, but because I genuinely enjoy it now. It makes me feel good and strong and healthy, not because I'm trying to prove anything to anyone. I'm doing well at work, got a promotion, and I've actually started seeing a therapist to work through some of the damage that relationship did to my self-worth. I'm learning what healthy love actually looks like. I ran into Sam, my physical therapist, at a coffee shop a few weeks ago, and we got to talking. He introduced me to his sister, Emily, who works in graphic design and just moved to Denver. We exchanged numbers, grabbed coffee once, and there might be something there eventually. Something that feels easy and genuine and based on actual compatibility rather than how we look together in photos. Someone who only loves you when you meet their aesthetic standards doesn't actually love you. They love the idea of you. Real love shows up during your worst moments, not just your highlight reel. And it never requires you to earn basic human decency through your appearance. What do you think is the biggest red flag I missed?